45 minutes of glassing and you found a north-facing bench 380 yards across the drainage, rack showing above the grass. He's bedded, hasn't moved in half an hour. His head kind of looks like it's down, like he might be snoozing. The temptation hits go right now, before he gets up, before something else blows him out. Most hunters go, and most of them blow it before they close half the distance. Not because they're bad hunters, but because they started moving before they had a plan. They got excited. Fear of missing out. FOMO is a bugger, right? Most hunters treat a bedded bull like a target that might disappear. They rush at it. They don't account for every animal in the drainage. They don't think about where their thermals are going to be when they're only 70 yards out. They move on their schedule instead of the bull's. And somewhere between 400 yards and 60, they step wrong, or the wind swirls, or they walk into a cow they never saw, and the bull is gone. The mistake didn't happen at 60 yards. It happened before they ever left their starting position. A bedded bull gives you something almost nothing else in elk hunting does. Time. And time used right means you have more control. And this episode is going to break down the complete sequence from the moment you spot him to the moment you draw. Every decision that matters gets made before you take the first step. So I've spent the last 34 years hunting and guiding western big game across steep north-facing drainages, dark alpine timber, and the high country benches where big bulls spend midday hours locked down and nearly impossible to reach undetected. And 30 years as a professional strength conditioning and nutrition coach working with athletes at every level, including years competing as an elite athlete myself. And what those 34 years of hunting and guiding and 30 years of coaching have taught me is that high stakes execution requires a locked in sequence, not just a quick reaction. And on a bedded bull, a reaction is going to get you busted, but a sequence gets you a shot. So before you ever take a single step, 3 questions need to be answered. Every one of them, not just 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3. The first is whether he's actually bedded. A feeding bull with his head down looks bedded sometimes in the right terrain. A bull that stepped into shadow and stopped moving can look bedded. You need to confirm that he's actually settled. Are his legs tucked underneath him? His head's resting, no active scanning, no feeding. Watch him for at least 10 minutes minimum before you commit to anything. Now, if you move on a bull who's still feeding, he's going to take 3 steps at the wrong movement, and you could already have lost your stock before it started. Not saying you can't stalk those bulls, but we're talking about bedded bulls here. So a confirmed bedded bull is worth that extra 10 minutes. An assumed bedded bull could cost you the whole thing. So make sure that grass and brush or, a roll in the hill isn't blocking his legs and making him look more bedded, right? At distance, that can be a little bit tricky. So that sounds funny. Just make sure that you've confirmed. The second question is what else is in the drainage? Every animal you haven't accounted for is a problem waiting to happen. That could be a cow you didn't see 150 yards from your route that could blow that bull out before you're close enough. Could be mule deer, right? That are going to run up the hill and spook them. You've got to glass everything. Timber edges, draws, benches above and below the bull, the open pockets in between. Not once, twice at least. Make sure that you've looked for ears, movement, shapes that don't belong. If you can't account for every animal in the area, you're not ready to move. How many of us have skipped this step? I am absolutely guilty. You find that bedded critter and you just get excited and you just kind of skim over everything. And that's how we get busted, right? That's not patience as a virtue. It's patience as a tactic. So it's going to keep you in the hunt. Use it. The third question is thermals. Not where the air's moving right now, where you're at, but where it will be moving 40 minutes from now when you're inside of 80 yards on that bull. Your first morning air is going to be sinking down slope. It's still cool from overnight, right? Until the sun hits the slope and starts to warm it. But after that air rises, so later in the morning, could be 8, 9, 10, just depends on when the sun starts to warm that slope. It's going to be transitioning, which could mean it's swirling, it's unstable, it's unreliable. And a swirling thermal at 70 yards on a stationary bull probably ends the encounter pretty quick. Know exactly what the thermal window is going to be doing when you're actually working in, and know that before you take a step towards that bull. And once you've answered all 3 of those questions, your route planning is next. I want you to stalk from from above or side hill from behind the bull whenever possible. Bedded elk typically face downhill and work their eyes and ears down the slope beneath them, right? That's where they expect danger to come from. An approach from above is going to put you behind their primary line of detection. Your terrain doesn't always allow it, but when it does, that's probably the angle that I would use. Hey, if you hunt public land elk and you're tired of grinding through random seasons, I built the elk hunting series of ebooks for you. Most hunters don't struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they lack a system. And that's exactly why I built the elk hunting ebook series as a complete progressive framework for Western elk hunters who are done guessing and ready to hunt with intention. Volume 1 is going to be Foundations and Reality. I reset your mindset and expose the assumptions that quietly wreck seasons. In Volume 2, Finding Elk and Understanding Pressure, you'll learn how elk actually move under pressure so you can anticipate instead of react. In Volume 3, Terrain, Wind, and Position, I break down how to use landscape and thermals to consistently create opportunities. In Volume 4, Calling, Silence, and Pressure, sound becomes a decision tool, not an impulse. In Volume 5, Bow Hunting Execution, we're talking about close range strategy so you can finish your encounters. And in Volume 6, Late Season and Post-Rut, we're talking about how elk shift after the rut and how to adapt when others quit. This is a system built for consistency. This isn't theory. It's a structured system to help you find elk, read country, and make confident decisions every season. Buy each volume individually or bundle them all to save 50% off at backboneunlimited.com. Now, use terrain to break the line of sight at every stage, right? Ridges, timber edges, rock outcroppings, creek cuts, any feature that allows you to disappear on one side and reappear closer on the other. Map the route mentally before you move. Everything's going to look different once you get over there, so try to map it out stage by stage, cover to cover. Where does the terrain conceal you? Where are you exposed and for how long? Every exposed section needs to have a reason it's worth crossing. And before you start moving, you've got to decide where you need to be standing when that bull gets to his feet if that happens. If he's lying down right now, he could be standing before you shoot, either on his own or because you bring him up. Figure out what position is going to give you the cleanest angle when he's upright and make sure your route ends there. If you arrive at 60 yards in the wrong position because you didn't think it through at the start, you can't move laterally to fix it without exposing yourself a lot of times. The route sets up the shot, so you've got to try to plan it the best you can before you go. Also plan for what happens if he stands mid-stalk, right? Coming off a bed, a bull typically rises, orients, and scans before he does anything else. Which direction does that take him? Does it open the angle or close it? Is there a position along your route that's going to work for both a bedded shot attempt and a standing bull? Think it through from where you're sitting. That's the time to think, not once you're already inside 100 yards when he starts shifting all of a sudden. Now, there's a couple phases to this. Phase 1 runs from your starting position to maybe 150 yards. Cover it efficiently, but on your terms, not just the clock's, right? We're not racing time. Move when the bull can't see you, when he's behind terrain, when his head's resting and maybe his eyes are closed, when his body is turned fully away. Those are your best windows. Use them aggressively in the early stages, right? So if you started at that 380 yards from the example in the beginning, that's a long ways, and covering it on a belly crawl from the start is going to burn all the concentration and physical control that you're going to need for the final 80 yards. Cover that early distance pretty quickly because that biggest chunk of discipline is going to come later. You've got to freeze the moment he lifts his head, right? That sounds obvious, but don't push your luck, right? Make sure that you know exactly what that head is doing. You can't be shifting your weight or making any sound if his head's up. So you've got to stay completely still until he settles back down and holds it. Not just for a second, but let him settle for several. Elk are going to key in on motion first, but a stationary shape and broken cover is pretty impossible to identify as a threat. A shape that moves gets investigated immediately. So when he's scanning, you've got to be a rock or a tree. When he drops his head and holds, you move again. Watch your footing on every step. A branch snap at 200 yards isn't going to always end the encounter, but it will make him pick his head up a lot of times. It's going to put him on alert, and it's going to cost you a lot of movement time that you don't want to lose while he's bedded. Every step has got to be tested before your weight transfers onto the foot. If the ground doesn't feel clean, find a different path, right? Pick that foot back up and replace it. Look down if you need to. At 150 yards, though, everything changes and we move into the next phase. You're not covering distance anymore. Now you're placing steps extra carefully. Each one is chosen before it's taken. Foot forward, test the surface, confirm that it's not going to make noise, shift your weight slowly, then find the next one. This pace is going to feel impossibly slow and painful, especially the first time you hold it under pressure, but that's exactly how slow it needs to be. The bull controls your movement now, not you. You move only when he gives clear permission, head down, resting, and relaxed. When he lifts his head and looks, you're frozen regardless of how uncomfortable the position is. An awkward freeze at 80 yards is recoverable. A sound at 80 yards probably isn't, right? He's going to really be interested in that sound. So hold whatever position you're in until he settles back down. Now, thermals become really critical inside 80 yards. I'm going to start getting nervous at that point. A shift in air direction is going to carry your scent to a stationary bull almost immediately. So if you feel the air change, you've got to stop. Don't take another step. Wait for it to stabilize. This is the window where impatience is going to kill your hunt. You've been out here for an hour working towards this position. 3 more minutes of patience inside 80 yards is the difference between a punch tag and a story about the one that got away and just how close you got. As you close the final distance, I also want you to start reading what you're actually looking at. Where is he lying relative to his legs and body? What's your angle from this position if he were to stand right now? A bedded elk's vitals are going to sit lower to the ground than a standing bull's, right? And depending on how he's lying, front legs are tucked, rolled slightly to one side. His legs might be partially guarding the entry point. You're not closing distance, right? You're reading the picture and deciding what position you need to be in when he gets up, if that's possible. At 60 yards, you might stop and wait, and you might need to create the movement, right? If you have the shooting lanes for it and branches aren't in the way. Maybe you got to get a little bit closer before this happens. But a bedded bull might stand on his own, or he could eventually get up to stretch, feed, and shift position. If your thermals are solid and you have time, I would probably wait him out. It's the lowest risk option. No sound, no movement, no decision that could go wrong. You're also sitting 60 yards from an animal whose senses are fully engaged while he rests. Every minute you hold that position is another minute for something uncontrolled to change. So your other option is to bring him to his feet on your terms. Maybe a single, very soft cow mew. One quiet, short sound, maybe face the other direction, barely enough to register, could bring him up to his feet. He might hear something that he's interested in or just is a little bit nervous about it being that close. He can't identify it, so a lot of times he'll just stand to investigate, head up, ears forward, looking for the source. Here's what most hunters get backwards, though. You draw before you make that sound. Most guys get that backwards. It's not after. You're already at full draw. You've got to have that pinned as settled as you can be before you make a single noise. When he stands and his attention is forward, searching for where that sound came from, the shot is already ready. It has to be ready, right? If you wait until he's on his feet to draw, you're pulling back on an alert, scanning animals, and bulls are going to catch that movement extremely fast, and that's where your encounter is going to die. Now, when he's on his feet and his body's turned broadside or quartering away, the vitals are back in the normal position, so the shot is cleaner than it ever would have been if he was lying down. So try to execute that shot. But you're going to have a short window, right? He stood up looking for something, and when he doesn't find it quickly, he's going to get nervous and move. So when the angle is right, take your shot. Now, if he stands and he faces you hard, we've got a couple of things that we need to talk about here, right? Is it a quartering, hard quartering, two facing on? It's probably not a shot. We probably only have a shot at one lung and not a true frontal where we're going to get the penetration that we want. So we would have to let down there. If it's a true frontal shot, it's going to need to be pretty close, I think. Not at 60 yards in the example that we talked about earlier. We're probably going to need to be 20 to 30, I think, for those solid frontal shots. I love a great frontal shot, but I think that closer to 20 yards is probably ideal for those frontals because we want to be able to get it down there in a soft softball-sized target very consistently, right? If you're not able to do that, it's too far for a frontal, right? So you're going to have to wait if you can, hope that he turns. And if he doesn't, you're just going to have to reset and try again another day. A live bull you know the location of is one of the best things in elk hunting, so just let it go. Try not to spook him the best you can, because a bad shot on that bull that you forced is going to be the worst outcome. Now, a bedded bull is going to give you time, but most hunters don't convert that time because the pressure of making mistakes worked against them. So try to run the sequence. You've got to commit to the decision. You've got to commit to the route and your approach. You've got to position yourself correctly, and you've got to work for the right kind of draw, and the shot will take care of itself. The hunters who kill bedded bulls aren't the ones who rush the hardest. They're the ones who decide most carefully before they ever move. Now, if this episode made you realize you need a better elk plan this season, you're not quite ready, not quite confident yet, don't just watch another video and hope it all comes together. Build your plan right now. If you want to study my full system on your own, start with my elk hunting series of ebooks. If you want daily guidance, accountability, and a place to ask questions as season gets closer, join me on Team Backbone. If you want my eyes on your actual hunt plan, your maps, access, terrain, pressure points, wind, thermals, your strategy, book an elk hunt plan audit with me and I'll help you tighten it up before season. And if the missing piece is your body, your legs, your lungs, your ability to handle mountain miles in a heavy pack, put my 30 years of coaching to work. Check out my Backbone Unlimited training plans. And if nutrition is where you need more structure, getting leaner, fueling long days, or building a better in-season food plan, check out my nutrition plans. The hunters who are ready in September and October are the ones who start tightening their plan right now. So go to backboneunlimited.com, choose the path that fits where you are now, and I'll help you get started. Thanks for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you in the comments. You know I read and respond to all of them. Until next time, train harder, hunt smarter, and never settle.